I really love that, and I think, and like I said, I feel like my life happens in teams in such a strange
Yeah.
way. Everything that you just described towards the end of this is something that I did maybe about 6 months ago
Yep.
with my therapist. And my therapist basically came to me and said, "You need to put down your value, and at your base level, what does Shareem expect as his base level values?" And
Yeah.
every time you encounter a situation, maybe you're upset about something or you're confused about something,
Yeah.
like look back at those values and
Yeah.
then examine the situation in the context of those values. And what
Yeah.
you'll discover very quickly is that some of those values are just not there, right? Like maybe there's a
Yeah.
lack of loyalty in a certain situation and that's why you're upset about it. Maybe there's a lack of independence and that's why you're upset about it.
Hmm.
So everything goes back to your rudimentary values. And I think that your suggestion right now is great because the same thing applies to career. You could
Yeah.
go into a space where none of those values are met
Hmm.
and the reason that maybe you're frustrated 3 months down the line or 6 months down the line, or you're underperforming in that time,
Yeah.
is tied to that, right? It's because you are lacking all of those base level values. And now you're in a
Yeah.
space where you're feeling like I have to just operate because I got this job and I have to do these things, but it's just not scalable or sustainable, right?
Hmm.
And that I think people will see also that element is lacking in you very, very quickly
Hmm.
in a role. And I think that is really, really why you should go in with this intention, as you've described it, because I feel like that's really, really key. Yeah, that's amazing. I really love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And like for your audience, if they're curious about this
Mm-hmm.
work, um, there's a Canada-based practitioner. Her name is Thais Gibson,
Mm-hmm.
and she's a personal development slash therapist slash person. So I don't really know how to define her, but she's in that world. And she
Yeah.
has a school called the Personal
Yeah.
Development School. So
Okay.
like in a moment where I was experiencing a lot of confusion in my own life, I
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of her coursework. And like
Mm-hmm.
fundamental to a lot of kind of how we move in the world is
Mm-hmm.
is understanding our personality needs.
Yeah.
Everybody essentially has about six or so personality needs that undergird how they live their lives, and people are not always aware
Mm-hmm.
of these needs. So, for
Yeah.
example, if you're first and the way that the needs work is that like there's sort of a hierarchy in these needs in
Mm-hmm.
this spectrum of needs. So usually your life is more defined by your top three,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other two or three follow. So if your top need is, let's say, security, you need to feel safe and secure, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't know that, and you're
Mm-hmm.
going after spaces or positions or putting yourself in contexts which are really
Yeah.
destabilizing
Yeah.
or very insecure, then
Mm-hmm.
there's a gap there,
Yes.
in terms of
Yes.
what you're looking for and what you actually need. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that part of the work is trying to figure out like how can you exist in the spaces that you want to exist in, but also
Right.
respect what you fundamentally need to live a life that allows you to belong and allow you to flourish, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
very, very interesting,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, thought-provoking work. Yeah.
It is. I
Yeah.
think like, it is a lot of that self work that I think also really drives motivation. It drives
Yeah.
everything in life.
Yeah.
I also think I really liked the fact that, you are bringing this idea that when you are job searching, you still need normalcy. It's not that you're
Yes.
just in this job search
No.
mode, and that's your only context. I
No,
think
and
I was, yeah, good.
sorry.
No, 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 go for it, go for it.
I
Yeah,
just wanted to add to that
yeah,
I see this time and time and again. I see a lot of people
yeah,
putting themselves in isolation in a search,
yeah,
and it's so hard. Like, please do
yeah.
not do that. Please keep connected. Keep your routines. Keep the stuff
Exactly.
that makes you feel alive. It's so important.
Mhm.
Um,
It is. It really is.
and yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hard otherwise.
It is.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And I think you're like you said, it is all like the way I think about it is, you cannot think of yourself as someone that just doesn't exist without all the basic resources that then make up who you are. I
Mhm.
think mentally, physically, you have to be sound in order to be
Mhm.
able to be a part of a job search, and that
Yeah.
means that you need to constantly be able to give yourself the things that you need to make yourself who you are, right? I think like even when I was in a job search and I was kind of like thinking, oh my God, I'm so burnt out, but I also feel so like alone and just like I have to
Yeah.
keep doing this.
Yeah.
And I remember like my mom just being like, no, it actually doesn't matter at the end of the day. Because
Yeah.
if you're going to go into it with such desperation,
Mm.
the outcome is not necessarily what you're going to want it to be, right? Because you're going to make a lot of rash decisions, a lot of just, very momentary kind of direction switches that are just not going to feed you in the right way. You need to be able to like think holistically as yourself, to go out, exercise,
Uh-huh.
actually be a part of, a group with your friends
Mm.
or whoever else makes you feel good. And then go about
Mhm.
searching. And the job
So,
search should not be the whole day. Maybe you're giving this a couple of hours in the morning and then you're doing other
yeah.
things in the afternoon. But I think that was really critical that you mentioned that, and I think that is something that I'll be also thinking about a little bit later too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like against the backdrop of it, and I know that your mom is she
Mm.
in Kenya?
She didn't get there.
Yeah, yeah. So just a totally different way of thinking in that
It
part of
is.
the world, which is so
It is.
community based, right? And right, and all people
Yeah.
based, really.
That's the
And
thing. Yeah.
yes,
It's
that's
exactly
the
that.
thing.
Like
That's
it's
exactly
it, it
that.
is community, right? Like that's the
Yeah,
one thing that lacks. I think we lack here because I think we
yeah,
believe very quickly that we just need to exist very individually. But
yeah.
when you actually think of it in that context, when the community is around you, um, by default, first of all, you're getting a whole bunch of perspectives, which is great, right? Because sometimes also when you're on your own, it's really easy to gaslight yourself into thinking
Yes.
I am the problem and
Hmm.
it is me and I am the failure, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when you have a whole bunch of people around you, there's so many mirrors to what it is you're saying that you can quickly realize, okay, maybe it's not just me. Maybe this is actually reality. This is the world, right?
Hmm.
And so that I think that is a very differing perspective in some ways for them to be like, hey, it's not all about, you know, it's not just you. Like you've got this and you can figure this out. You also need cheerleaders legitimately during a job search, and the easiest cheerleaders are literally the people that care for you the most. So, being around them is just going to make you feel a lot more like I've got this and I'm capable and things can happen for me, at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that like that is so true. And I think structurally, if we look at North America
Hmm.
specifically, there's
Hmm.
been such a falling away of communal spaces that
Yeah.
would allow us to connect organically and naturally. Um, and if we look historically, those initial actually Esther Perel talks a lot about this. Those
Hmm.
initial structures were religious in nature, that we
Yeah.
would come together um, in religious context. So everybody would go to
Hmm.
mosque or to shul or
Hmm.
to church or house of prayer on a consistent basis, and that's where
Hmm.
people um, would exist, and there'd be time before and time after, where after the prayer, where people would connect and laugh
Yeah.
or cry or joke or whatever it was. And so I think with that falling away of those structures, then it's like the burden of connection has been placed
Hmm.
on the individual, which is a
Yeah.
really interesting thing to think about because it's when I think about that,
Hmm.
it it makes me want to refute that burden and seek
Correct.
connection.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
know, it makes me
Absolutely.
want to go in the other very intentionally. It makes me want to
Yeah.
build deeper connections with people around me because I'm like, that's too much to carry on my small,
On
tiny
your
shoulders. I
own.
have small
Yep.
shoulders. I have a small frame.
You do have small shoulders.
I do. They're sort of like a little more shouldery, but like if we take this down, there's a small shoulders.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think about that, and I think this is going off on a bit of a tangent that's away from
Hmm.
careers, but I don't know if you're seeing this, Kareem, but like I'm
Hmm.
seeing all of a sudden, and just in the last, I don't know,
Hmm.
what are we, July? 25th, 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the last
Mm.
6 months or so, maybe less, I've seen so many more things on my Instagram feed
Mhm.
which are about um creating small groups for connection, like Time
Yeah.
Left or like
Yeah.
Real Roots or
Roots.
222. I don't, and you like supposedly fill out a profile, then
Yeah.
they connect you to a group, and so you're paying you're
Yeah.
paying
To
to
be
be connected to that group that's going to become your group. And I'm like, whoa, okay, so
yeah.
that's what we're doing now to
Yeah.
find this connection. We're
But I
bouncing
think
off
it's
of these platforms. Yeah.
But I think that that's actually one of the things that's really interesting
Yeah.
to me is the fact that we are seeking connection, and I think
Mhm.
does it like as long as I've been in this North American context, I think everyone has fought the idea of connection, but at a base level, I
Yeah.
think from a human standpoint, you do need connection. I think you do need to feel seen, and I
Yeah.
think this idea that we're not feeling seen right now, whether
Yeah.
that's us existing on these social platforms and then discovering that nothing here makes me feel better because there isn't there is just a false to the community. That means that in their day to day, you're just like, well, is it just me on my own, and do I now need to go and subscribe to a group to
Yeah.
feel seen, right? But also, it makes me wonder,
Yeah.
right? Like, is that feeling of being seen going to even be authentic? Because if you're
Yeah.
all coming in with this sort of setup as a context, like how real is that? But people do want to be seen. I
Mhm.
think we talked even a little bit about this when we had met for coffee.
When we
Is
met,
that
yeah.
when you actually like it doesn't matter who it is in your day to day. If someone just looked at you, smiled, acknowledged you, made you feel a certain way, you feel seen in such a powerful way that
Mhm.
everything can shift after that.
Mhm.
Everything can shift, you know. And I think everyone should really go out with that intention. I think if you really want to build genuine
Mhm.
community, I think you need to go out with this feeling of here I am. This is
Yeah.
me being authentically myself with you. And that means that I'm going to present in a way that is not, there are no masks here. This is really me. And you could feel like maybe you see yourself in me or a portion of yourself in me. And therefore now we are connected.
Mhm.
But you really need to go out with that authenticity, go out with that desire to feel seen and to be
Mhm.
seen and to see other people. Because I think it changes everything. I think everything becomes possible beyond that
Mhm.
point. Really, everything.
It really does. I think yeah,
Yeah,
that to be seen is, I think, one of the most magical things, you
it is.
know?
It is.
But
It really
I
is.
feel like sometimes that jump from scrolling on your phone
Mm.
for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes, let's say, and then putting yourself out there intentionally in the
yeah,
world to make
yeah,
connection, it's like it
yeah.
seems to be a quite a big gap. It's like there's a bit of a leap
There is
there,
a big gap. Yeah, there
you
is
know?
because
There's like
you like
yeah.
I tell people all the time, I'm like you are not the same person that is
Hmm.
scrolling on that phone. You
No.
are very much a different persona. That's a whole other being that you are on your device, right? But I also think
That's
we
interesting.
need to get better at actually like breaking because I think in many ways we are playing roles when we are on an online platform because
Hmm.
it's very easy to play a role on an online platform, right? That person doesn't have to see you physically to actually like call you out on what is
Yeah.
actually not true, right? They're only getting exactly what you're feeding them. There's such a empowering sense of control on that device. Whereas in the real world, that is not the case. When you meet someone in the street, you cannot. There's so much dynamic around you that
Yeah.
even if you present it in a false way, it's very easy for someone to see through that. One thing I really think that's really true to us as people is you will see someone and it doesn't matter how much insight you may or may not have on them, you'll immediately be able to tell like when someone is not real with you, when someone is not
Totally.
being
Yeah.
honest with you. And that I think is something that is our check. That's a check for us, right? And that's why when you generally feel like someone saw you when you're feeling seen, it's because they actually saw exactly who you are as a
Yeah.
human, right?
Yeah.
Not as who you were on a platform. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's fascinating actually. Yes, that
yeah.
like, and it's such a quick knowing,
Hmm.
right? Like,
It's immediate.
it's immediate, right?
It's
I
immediate.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
your body knows before your mind knows
A
for sure.
hundred
Like
percent. Like,
you'll
yeah.
react
Yeah. One of the
somehow.
things I used to tell people all the time is like, even when I used to job search in the past, because in the past when you'd have to physically go into an office, the actual office and that my body's feeling of being in the space would tell me immediately whether or not
Mm.
I would take the job.
Oh
Because if I
wow.
walked into the space and I could sense that it's feeling toxic and that this is just maybe like a very high strung environment and it's
Yeah.
hyper competitive and everyone just seems they're on edge, we're not doing this job. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you're going to pay me, doesn't matter what's happening. I'm not doing it because I know personally I will not thrive in that setting, right? Right now, you obviously don't get that feeling, and I think having worked remotely, you don't get that sense.
Mm.
But one thing I've been doing a lot more actually now that we do work remote is that I actually force people to connect even if you are not physically in the space with me. And that's always my gauge, right? The more people I talk to within my company, more on a one on one basis, not even in the context of like a broader meeting, the more you get to know people and the more you get to understand what is going on at work. So it's very easy to quickly suss out when it's problematic in the
Hmm.
space. Mm.
Which I think is like, I think you're highlighting two fundamental ways of moving in the world despite what's
Yeah,
happening around us. But the
yeah,
first is to be able to cue into that intuition, to be aware
hmm,
enough to cue into that, that can
yeah,
allow you to like make the right decisions for yourself. And then the
hmm,
second is to kind of extend that connection to other people,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah,
And both of those things,
mm,
there's a lot of depth in those two
mm,
brackets, but
hmm.
they take work.
They
Like
do take work.
they take
Yeah,
work. Yeah.
yeah. It does.
Yeah.
I think it's work on both sides, right? Like I think
Mm.
in the sense that you really have to do the self work all the time. I don't think that there is any way to escape that.
Mhm.
I also think you will not process what's happening to you, and the worst I would say the worst outcome is that it is because I feel like life in many ways is forcing you to become very introspective, strangely. And I feel like if the more you kind of operate in a way that I don't have to be introspective, I don't have to think about how I'm operating and I'm just doing, doing, doing. There will come a point where life will throw you a curveball and then you'll be forced to reconcile with who you are in that moment. And what you might discover is not necessarily good, right? And so if you're continuously doing the work to be introspective, I think that that really allows you to keep up with this dynamic in such a way that you're not surprised. You know yourself well enough. And I think knowing yourself truly who you are is the most empowering thing. At that point, if you can deal with who I am as a person, nothing will seem insurmountable. Like a career shift, doesn't matter what it is, everything is doable, right? And the same thing goes for your relationship with other people. Like looking at people and actually looking at people is really, really key because I feel like if you go out and you actually make that connection with a person, um, that's it's everything. It's everything too because then you are also being seen by other people who genuinely will see you and will look out for you. And you are not going to people who are inauthentically just going to mirror everything back to you and say that this is true, this is right, this is valid. No, they're going to genuinely tell you exactly what it is, like it is,
Hmm.
And so you need to build that system, I think, around yourself to kind of get ahead. I feel.
Mhm. Then I think it's one of those things where as you build that system with folks that you know,
Hmm.
they will continue to help build a system around you as well. So it
Absolutely,
starts to become
absolutely.
symbiotic,
Yeah.
and I have to say that the same can happen in the career space.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that authenticity and that vulnerability,
Yeah.
and that building that everyone is building with each other and
Hmm.
for each other, that can certainly
Exactly.
exist professionally, and
It changes everything.
it changes everything. Yeah.
I genuinely feel the most successful companies are companies where people feel
Yeah.
that they are motivated synchronous in a synchronicity, right? Where
Totally.
everyone is feeling seen and related to each other, things are not feeling hidden. Nothing is feeling abstract. Everyone is on board. Everyone's working in a way that's cohesive. Everyone is respecting each other. Everyone is seeing value in each other. That's when you are going to set yourself up for success. And I think that element of it really you cannot just falsely replicate that. That comes from true authenticity. Like people genuinely really want to be doing things together because
Mm.
the stakes are then shared, and I think the connection is shared. So yeah, no, you have to take that into the workplace. You have to take that everywhere. It doesn't matter where you go, but being authentic is everything. It's
Hmm.
everything. Yeah, it really
That's
is.
true. It's true, and I think that for people searching for positions, I think sometimes
Mm.
folks lose sight of that. Actually, I think in the
Yeah,
search there's a desperation in the search. You just want to start earning money, and you want to. This Toronto's an
but
expensive
but
city, and like
that's the thing.
right.
Exactly,
So then people lose
exactly.
sight of actually that's ideally what they want to have.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's
yeah.
very true. And I think when you are desperate, right?
You're
Like it's
desperate.
hard. Like, what are you going to do? This world works around money. Everything is built around money. So,
Hmm.
you're very quickly ready to adapt and try to become something else. But then when the dust will settle, I think it'll be really hard for you to reconcile with who you are and what you've become, because of this, right? And that's, I think, is I don't know. I feel like maybe this is me just getting older, but it's really hard for me to see myself being so false and being so not true to me,
Hmm.
in any capacity. Like I can't see myself ever wanting to be that way. I would sooner just do nothing,
Hmm.
than try to be this false version of myself. So I think that's, yeah. Like I feel like people really need to reconnect to who they are and be true to who they are. Yeah.
True. And I think that can be a bit of a process. Like I think if I look at my own
Yeah.
career, some of those initial roles were not maybe the best fit, or it took me a
Yeah.
long time to understand that I actually can find and create by this like at the
Yeah.
same time a work context that really it does allow me to thrive. And it wasn't until I got into my current role that I really believed that
Mm-hmm.
actually, where
Mm-hmm.
I started this job in 2021, so it's been about 4 years now. And it's been a total process. So but I think having that as a sort of like a north star can be
Mm-hmm.
helpful, because if I don't I think if folks are able to build like a bit of a vision around
Mm-hmm.
what they want to see reflected back to them in the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
you will reach. You will get there. It's just a matter of time,
Yeah. It is.
and then
It
you'll
really
be
is.
yeah, you'll be more astute in terms of understanding what works and what doesn't for you. Mm,
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think like it's very much a learned thing. Honestly, I genuinely feel like sometimes I say all these things and I say it with such conviction, but if I was in my 20s and you
yeah.
like had this conversation with me, the response would be drastically different, right? But I think that
Mhm.
that is also the power of experience. That's what experience builds you to become. So I think people do need to experience these things. I think people need to just, but also be mindful and acknowledge those experiences and how it's changing us, more and more. One
Mm,
of the final things I actually had for you today is, do you have any final uplifting thoughts for people
yeah.
going into the workplace right now?
Yeah.
Some element of positivity that we can, kind of
Yeah.
motivate people into kind of feeling like,
Yeah. Yeah.
hey, you're not alone and this is actually really hard.
Yeah.
And it's actually, it's
Yeah.
not just you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say this, that I have worked with hundreds of people in the last four
Mm-hmm.
years, um, almost 1,000 folks,
Mm-hmm.
and there's still so much opportunity up there.
Yeah.
People are getting jobs. They're opening
Yeah.
doors. They're getting jobs. They are finding the jobs of their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important to keep in mind, that possibility
Mm-hmm.
is all there will always be possibility in the labor market, in the world, no matter at
Mm-hmm.
what stage we're at in our professional journey. So for those of you who
Yeah.
are searching, please do keep that in
Yeah.
mind. I think something else that is really helpful is that a successful job search will often start from um, a place of alignment and intention.
Mm-hmm.
So if folks can be clear about what they're searching for, even if that clarity is that they don't know. If you don't know what you're searching for, okay, let's work with that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and move forward with that. Then you're moving with curiosity and vulnerability right from the get go,
Exactly.
and you're building forward with those tools in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Um, I think the final thing that I will say is community is golden, and so if
Hmm.
you can just keep talking to people about your search, you will
Hmm.
slowly find your path. And of course,
Yeah.
all the other stuff is also out there, right? The resume, the cover letter, the tools,
Hmm.
the networking, and all of that. But I think those three things, in terms of understanding that there is possibility, understanding
Yeah.
that there are people around you who can help you, and leading with curiosity and vulnerability, that will always open doors for you no matter what your
For you.
sector, where you
Hmm.
are, whether your early career, mid career, later career. Those things remain
Hmm.
true, and they are almost like currency for
Yeah.
any kind of pathway,
Yeah.
professional or personal. Yeah.
No, I love that. And I think those are really, really good key salient points. I feel like they would apply across the board, doesn't matter what you
Mm.
are looking for in terms of work.
Hmm.
And so that's really, really going to, I hope, help a lot of people in terms of where
Oh.
people can find you if you want to be found.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Mm,
so I am slowly but surely starting up my own coaching and consulting
yes, it's
side
nice. Mm,
hustle.
I love this.
So I will send you the
Yeah.
Instagram because it's very much like in the beginning stage. So here's me being very vulnerable.
Yes.
It's Virani coaching, and I would
Okay.
love to continue having these kinds of conversations
Yeah.
with folks. So that is like my own dream. I have a couple of dreams that I'm trying to build out in my own life, and this is
Hmm.
one of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
No, this is awesome. And like, I just wanted to say thank you for doing this so quickly. I really, really loved
Oh,
our chat.
thanks.
I love
Yeah.
your perspective on things. I think that there's such insight in everything that you say. I also feel like you're very well researched, which is also really nice too. To hear. So there's a backing to everything that everyone's hearing. But
Thank
also
you.
I think it's really important that you are also kind of you are practicing what it is you're preaching, right? In many ways,
Hmm.
you are building something new that kind of follows and respects a lot of what you are encouraging people to do, and so that I think is really really powerful, really really strong. And so overall, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Hopefully, we'll
Thank
be
you.
doing this again in a little while, and maybe we have a different kind of set of themes to talk
Oh, I
about
would
because
love
maybe at that
that.
point the world is in
Oh,
a completely
love
different
that.
place.
I
But
love
we
that.
will definitely do this again.
Oh no, thank you.
Thank you
Alpine,
so
thank you
much
so
for your
much. This
time.
was such a beautiful conversation. I
No,
really
I loved it.
appreciated all of your insights too. I
Okay,
just
good.
I learned a lot from you in this talk,
Okay,
so
cool.
or in
Thank
this
you. Thank you.
time. So
High
thank
five.
you.
No, I'm kidding.